And what's going on, Los Angeles, Bruin Nation, LAFB fam? Your dynamic duo, the Thriller and Madman, back together again live for all of your UCLA football needs. And we promised it. We told you guys over these last few days, it's going to be a frenzy. It's going to be a bonanza. And so Thriller and I had to go live here tonight. First really big day for UCLA transfer portal recruiting. We're up to 7 commits. We talked about McCullough yesterday and 6 more here today. So we'll get all into it. But before we do, Thriller, how we doing? Feels like you and I are talking every 45 minutes at this point, given the state of UCLA in the best way. Man, oh man, this new Chesney era is off to a riveting, resounding start. How we doing, brother? How you feeling today?
Riveting start indeed, and to quote the great Jerry Neuheisel, it is a great day to be alive and be a Bruin. The 4 letters took it out of my mouth on that one. 6 freaking commits today. I mean, we got day jobs, guys. This is crazy. I'm checking Twitter every 5-10 minutes thinking of what's going on. I can't even imagine how our guys, Tracy McDonald, Ben Bolch, Ben Royer are dealing with stuff right now, because it is hot right now. Chesney is hot as sizzling grease. And instead of telling you how I feel, I'm just going to play this song. I hope you guys can hear on the background of this. The mood all day. It was just a lot of Bee Gees bumping through my stereo, jamming out with each and every commitment. What a day, man. I mean, 6 commits. We found some immediate starters. We found some projects. And we're going to dive all into it right here, right now.
No doubt about it, Thriller. No doubt about it. We said this was going to be a very aggressive coaching staff. This entire roster is going to be rebuilt from the ground up. And it's really going to be in the mold, in the image of how Bob Chesney has been successful at every stop along the way of his career. Thriller, let's sort of get into it position group by position group. 6 new commits today. And I think we've hit major areas of need, right? We got 3 new commits on the offensive line. We have 2 new commits in the secondary. And we have 1 new commit to team up with McCullough on the edge. And so maybe we start, Thriller, offensive line. Your thoughts on this trio that has arrived?
Man, let's dive into it, because the crown jewel of the day, in my opinion, is Mr. Riley Robel, 290 pounds, 6'3" guard, coming back following his offensive line coach, Chris Smith, to the UCLA Bruins. This guy was a second-team all-big, Sun Belt selection. This was a dude that had multiple offers from Power 4 schools, kind of shut off his recruitment entirely to follow Chesney and Chris Smith to UCLA. Plug and play. Put him right in at right guard. He does have some flexibility on the line, but this was the biggest commit of the day. This was huge on so many different levels. You get just an immediate starter coming in with Robel. So I got the crown jewel of the day off the board. I'm going to give you the most underrated. Hall Schmidt, 6'8", 308 pounds. We got like a literal Viking coming to UCLA to play tackle. And, we talked about it. We have Garrison Blank and we got Somerville coming back as our only 2 tackles left on the roster, really, from last season. Tackle was not something that we just wanted. It was a necessity. So to get a guy that, in Schmidt, it's unbelievable. 6'8", 308 pounds, was a starting tackle, too, for one of the best run offenses in recent memory in college football at Boise State. Ashton Jeanty got it done, man, but he had to run behind that offensive line the entire time. He's giving game balls to his offensive lineman. Hall Schmidt, too. It sounds like a guy that could have played football in any era. He could have been protecting, Bart Starr's backside, and he's going to be doing the same for Nico Imaliava in 2026. So Hall Schmidt, 6'8", 308 pounds. I'm so thrilled about that. Clearly thrilled about the size. And then J.D. Rayner, need more guards. We were lucky to get back Eugene Brooks, who I think is going to be starting at that left guard position. Sam Yoon's back there, but we need bodies. We needed like 8 to 10 offensive linemen, if you're asking me. Rayner's been in the program, and he had some really great quotes about his visit to UCLA, the coaching staff reuniting with Chris Smith, all on 3 from our guy Tracy McDonald. And here's the quote that I'll leave you guys with when it comes to our guy JD Rayner. He said, this team is trying to compete for championships and national titles. That was the message that was coming out from Mr. Bob Chesney in the pitch. What more can you ask for? This is as good as you can start with the offensive line. We needed 8 to 10. We got 3 on day number 2 of the portal. Let's freaking go, Madman.
Let's freaking go, indeed, Thriller. Love the breakdown. And you said it so well. I mean, Robel is really sort of that crown jewel. And now we've got him at a guard position. We've got Eugene Brooks at another guard position. We're looking at potentially Sam Yoon at center. And what I love about Robel and JD Rayner, Thriller, is you're talking about 2 guys that have come from JMU. And what is the big element that I think we're seeing in terms of college football these last couple of years? Chemistry on the offensive line is so critical to success. You have to be strong in the trenches. We've talked about it so much. You got to have the size. You got to have the weight. You got to have the girth. But you got to be able to have that chemistry as well. And you got to be able to have that continuity. And JD Rayner and Robel coming together from JMU, I think, is absolutely significant. And then when you talk about Hall Schmidt at tackle, Thriller, listen, this is a guy who played also. Think about this. All 3 of these offensive linemen have played in the college football playoff. Think about that.
Epic. That's epic.
It's epic, And so Hall Schmidt was on that, Boise State team here at 2024 that went to the college football playoff and was a blocker, a starter for arguably the greatest running back season in college football, potentially since Barry Sanders. I mean, there is an entire school of thought that believes Ashton Jeanty was absolutely robbed of that Heisman last year. And I know you and I feel very similarly there. So the fact that Hall Schmidt has played in a system where you're talking about one of the most decorated running back seasons in the history of college football, played in the college football playoff, and now you bring in Robel and Rayner with that continuity and that chemistry from JMU. All 3 guys have played in massive games. All 3 guys bring veteran experience, and all 3 guys are bringing a mentality and a culture, and they're resonating with what Bob Chesney's saying. Because when you come from experiences the way they've come from, you have your pick of the litter. You have options. You have a lot of different programs to go to. And the fact that what they're seeing in terms of what Bob Chesney is architecting and what he's saying is resonating with them so deeply. Massive, massive day here, Thriller. We talked about it. I think that magic number is 15 in terms of offensive and defensive line. We're already at 5, in terms of day 2. So we're exactly hitting those needs. We're building this team exactly from the ground up. So exciting, Thriller, indeed.
And just to piggyback on that, what a pitch this is if you're Hall Schmidt to talk to a Wayne Knight, a guy that's a great target. I blocked for the best rusher of the past decade within college football. Come here, we're going to do something similar if you're in a Bruins uniform. So it's a magic scenario for you.
Magic scenario indeed, Thriller. Let's shift now over to the secondary. 2 big gets, and obviously there's a lot of rotation going on in terms of the secondary, in terms of even outgoing. We've had obviously guys graduate. We got guys in the portal. We got 18 guys sort of from an outgoing perspective in the portal, including a number of guys in the secondary. Lots of conversation today about Scooter Jackson. Will he stay? Will he go? He's in the portal, getting that, sort of flirtatious dance with LSU. I got to be honest, Thriller, you and I talked about it offline. That's going to be a hard one to say no to. You walk in with Kiffin and LSU. That's going to be a hard one for Scooter Jackson to say no to. I think Bob Chesney senses that, and so got really 2, I think, gems. I think absolute diamonds in the rough here in terms of these 2 gentlemen in the secondary. Thriller, your thoughts on our 2 secondary commits?
So we got kind of a veteran project and a guy that I think is awesome. Going to be a day 1 starter for UCLA, especially with Key Lawrence departing from the program. Tashawn James, we'll start with the starter. 6'1", 250-pound safety. He started a handful of games for an Iowa State program we felt was very strong under Matt Campbell, who's now taking over at Penn State. 74 tackles over the past few years, 5 tackles for a loss. This is like he could play in so many different dynamics. He's really solid against the run. He can defend in the pass. He can he's flexible enough to not only guard those tight ends, but maybe a receiver on the opposite end. Tashawn James is an underrated pickup. I saw the portal with people talking in different fan bases when it was announced he was declaring. And, Florida Gator fans were like, hey, let's bring him down here. They're talking about some Texas A&M people wanted him at Texas A&M to be an Aggie. So for UCLA to come up big and get this type of guy, I think it's really big. He's originally from Oklahoma City. I'm hoping we found our version of SGA in the secondary for the UCLA Bruins. Our guy, Tashawn James, I think that's a home run. And then Dante Lovett Jr., prototypical size, 6 foot, 195 pounds. Just to make another NBA reference, this guy went to high school at DeMatha Catholic, like one of the premier high school basketball programs within the country. He's a DC born and bred type of guy. He's played sporadically over a few years. He's had, 2 starts, 22 tackles, and a pick in his time in a Hokie uniform. Very good place to play defensive back, so he's had some good coaching there. I'm excited to see what he can do. This is a chance for him to start, especially if Scooter Jackson is off to LSU like we talked about, Madman. So I think it's just really good gets. You're just trying to add bodies from credible programs that know what it takes to win. And I think there's a lot of elements here that we've seen in the early parts that UCLA is doing just that.
No, Thriller, I think spot on there. I think you nailed it. I think James is, someone that's going to be a very significant difference maker next year. I think he's going to be a starter, and he's going to be very high impact in the secondary. And I think Lovett is going to get an opportunity to do the same. But at the very least, I think he's going to be a very strong rotational piece. What I love about Tashawn James, and really, these Iowa State corners today, Thriller, have been hot on the market. Between Tashawn James, Jontez Williams, there's a lot going right in Ames, Iowa, in terms of Iowa State. I love Tashawn James's versatility, Thriller, to your point. I think he's someone that can play outside corner. I think he can play nickel. I think you can sort of move him around. I think he's physical at the point of attack, but he's also, to your point, got really good ball skills. So I think that versatility, is going to be very, very critical in this new defensive system that Chesney and company are going to be incorporating. What I also love, Thriller, look at the common theme here with the Tashawn James as well as some of the offensive linemen. Iowa State was in the Big 12 championship game last year. This is, again, guys that are playing big-time games, whether they've been in the playoff, whether they've been in conference championship games, opportunity to get into the playoff. These are not guys that are just sort of sitting on the bench in middling programs where the lights are going to be too bright. If anything, they're going to sort of elevate the culture and the expectations of this program, and that's what I really love. Dante Lovett, you mentioned it, Thriller, time and again, really good secondary comes out of Blacksburg, Virginia with Virginia Tech. They got really good talent on the outside, so you got to believe Lovett has been trained the right way. He's also going to come in, be aggressive, be physical, and I think he's got a real opportunity for that rotational piece. So 2 additional really, really good gets there, Thriller. And when you couple it with the 3 offensive linemen, big, big day. And then, Thriller, of course, we got to finish it with the edge, with the defensive end here, Aiden Gobira. I know you got a ton of things to say there. I mentioned him, actually, show before last, the solo one that I did while we were on the holidays about a guy who I thought would be a great get for UCLA. 4 sacks this past year, was really a menace in terms of TFLs. I know you've got a really strong opinion about Gobira, and I'll hand it over to you in just a second. But what I love about the Gobira get here, Thriller, is, you're sort of laying the breadcrumbs. You're laying the seeds for a Mr. Sahir West, because they are, again, when we talk about chemistry on the offensive line, you also want chemistry on that defensive line. And the fact that UCLA is able to get Gobira and build that continuity from JMU, if you're a Sahir West, you're like, you know what? Hey, my Robin, went to UCLA. This thing is lining up for me to come to UCLA now as well. So I think Gobira, if Robel was the big get offensively today, Thriller, I think, Mr. Gobira's the massive get on defense.
Gobira's huge, man, for a number of reasons. He was PFF's #1 run defender as an edge in the Sun Belt Conference last year at an 85 grade, 4 sacks, originally a Notre Dame guy. So this is not just a JMU guy coming over that was under recruited. This guy had his pick of the litter out of high school. He has the frame, like you mentioned, 6'4", 6'5". And you pair kind of his sturdy run defense, kind of set the edge type of mentality with a guy we just got in Ryan McCullough, who's kind of that speed rusher
Yeah.
off the edge. That's a fun duo to talk about just in the early works, where it's like, what are these two guys going to look like together on a football field? So I'm really pumped about Gobira. He had to medically retire as a player as defensive end. And I just want to remind UCLA fans, no comparison. But the last time we took a flyer on a guy that had to medically retire, it was the great Liatu Latu of UCLA. That was the first defensive player picked in the 2024 NFL draft. So Gobira, I like what I see from him on paper. I think there's a lot of good stuff there. And reuniting with Hitchler and Sam Daniels, the defensive line coach, I think it's just going to continue to do wonders. We may see a breakout player. If Riley Robel was the crown jewel of today's class that we got, this is the kind of uncut gem, if you will, the guy that we can make it work with, and you can see his ceiling kind of rise. So Gobira, there's a chance he's the best guy we got today if everything goes right in his camp, man.
No question about it, Thriller, and you said it really well. Look, this guy was recruited out of Notre Dame on the defensive line, so you got to be doing something right here. He was a 4-star kid. This was a very highly decorated player. Obviously, the medical injuries derailed him a little bit. Now he sort of sets the stage with a really nice year that he had at JMU, and you mentioned it. I mean, the fact is he's one of those guys that's going to come in. He's going to close up those A and B gaps from a run defense perspective. He's going to set that edge. He's not going to lose gap contain. He's not going to get undisciplined. He's really going to sort of force plays to where the crowd is going to be. And oh, by the way, while doing that, he found a way to get 4 sacks on the season as well. So no stranger to be able to get to the quarterback as well. And so to me, that's absolutely huge. And you mentioned it, foreshadowing. I know you brought it up on Twitter earlier today. And, obviously Latu is sort of a one of one in so many different ways.
Yeah.
But hey, there's no reason why history can't repeat itself in some version, because the last time we had a guy with a really high potential that was highly decorated, that medically redshirted, guess what? He turned into the 15th pick of the NFL draft and has done some miraculous things. So, Thriller, it just, there's, and our fans are kind of seeing it in the chat. It's like, look, UCLA football is kind of aligned. They're getting it. There's a new energy. There's a new vibe.
Oh my God.
This just feels different, Thriller, than where we've been the last 10 years. I mean, obviously it was a tough sled in these last 2 years with Deshaun. He never really had enough time to really get going in terms of his recruiting. So we never really saw what that looked like. We know, how Chip felt about recruiting. And quite frankly, the last 3 years of the Mora era looked like he kind of burnt out a little bit. He just sort of looked exhausted after having some great recruiting classes like Barr and Kendricks and Jack and the like. So this feels very different. Chesney's just coming in with an energy and a vibrancy. And even more than that, Thriller, there's a plan here. And it's very obvious to me what he's emphasizing and prioritizing. He's emphasizing continuity. He's emphasizing chemistry. He's emphasizing quality experience. And he's emphasizing guys that have played in big games. And I think those are really, if you look at the 7 guys that we've gotten over these first 2 days, that's the common threads to me, Thriller, is those elements there, because he understands what it takes to be able to win. You got to be able to win inside out. You got to be able to win the line of scrimmage. And now he's realizing, hey, guess what? This sleeping giant is starting to wake up. It's starting to, it's pressed the snooze alarm, and it's starting to wake up out of bed. And for the rest of the Big Ten, for the rest of the country, this is UCLA. This is the #1 public university in the world. This is 125 national championships. We are no stranger to academic success and athletic success. And if we just get aligned, and it sounds like we are, and it feels like we are, to everybody else, we could be back in the 80s and 90s again very, very quickly.
It feels like, you were a freshman and sophomore in high school and you're intimidated by the older classes. You're getting called a pipsqueak. You're getting shoved in lockers. But now you're the big man on campus. And what I mean by campus is this could be the big man on campus for LA, the entire city, like Bob Chesney put into his press conference. Big things are coming right now, man. And I think you're so spot on. The energy right now, it's like a unity has formed with UCLA fans that I just haven't seen since we've been covering the program and been a part of this. Like, even in the chip days when we had that couple winning seasons there, was still very divided between the fan bases. Deshaun, it went pretty sour pretty quickly. But I think everyone in the UCLA fan base is putting all their backing into what we have going on right now. And it's such a beautiful thing. And we need to continue to do that, because look at the fruits of your guys' labor. Look at what's happening right now in Westwood. You said it best. The sleeping giant has hit the snooze alarm. It's up. It's got its mouthwash swishing around. It's about to hop in the shower. Get in a nice suit and walk on out that door.
Walk on out there. All we got to do is fire up that coffee machine now, Thriller, and we're ready to rock and roll. Okay, we're ready to rock and roll.
We're rocking,
Thriller. I was born. I'm a few years older than you. And I was born in the 80s, and I grew up in LA in the 90s. And I'll tell you, UCLA was on fire in the 90s. And that was an energy that when I was, in high school and when I was 15 years old, 14, 15, 16 years old, that was an energy that I've been waiting 25 years to be able to get back to. And that was a period where basketball won the national championship in 95, went 32-1, one of the most dominant basketball teams in the history of college basketball. And then right after that, 97, 98 was the 20-game win streak, where UCLA was on the cusp of a national championship. Think about that. From 95 to 98, you win the Natty in basketball, and you almost played for the Natty in football. And it's starting to feel like that again, in the sense that look at where women's basketball is right now. There's a very legit shot that women's basketball is going to win the national championship this year. And you couple that with a national championship in women's basketball with where this football team is going. Thriller, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility by any stretch of the imagination that UCLA is playing in a college football playoff game in 2 years. I mean, if anything that we have seen in college football today, Indiana came out of nowhere. By the way, same guy from the same school, is the guy that we have. Texas Tech came out of nowhere. Think about these programs that have an opportunity now to play for it all in a way that they didn't before. I mean, think about Vanderbilt, Thriller. I mean, Vanderbilt was a hair from playing in the college football playoff. Vanderbilt had never had a 10-win season until this season. So the fact of the matter is the entire chessboard of this sport has absolutely been redone. It's almost like it's 0-0 again. Everybody's starting fresh because the rules have completely changed. UCLA, in a very real way, could be playing in a college football playoff game in 2 years. That would not surprise me one bit. And if Chesney continues on this path, it's only been 2 days, but he starts stacking these days, and 2 days become 200 days, and 200 days become 400 days, this team is going to be playing in the college football playoff before we know it.
I love it, man. And you brought up such a great point. NIL is almost like what AI is to society, like where you just feel like it's changed society so much in such a short amount of time that we're seeing the after effects. Like, Madman, think about how crazy this is. Kids aren't growing up saying, I want to be a Florida Gator or I want to be a USC Trojan. They're saying, I want to be a Vanderbilt Commodore, an Indiana Hoosier, and a Texas Tech Red Raider. Like, that's nuts. Like, I never in my wildest dreams would consider those three top 15 programs right now. I mean, Vanderbilt,
no question.
They just got the top quarterback in the country to come to their school, like number one high school football recruit. And recruits do matter, but I also have had people talking about why are all these guys 3-star players that, in the portal rankings and whatever. These are all starter level players that you said played for championship level teams. And I think what we have to do right now, man, is we have to trust the blueprint that Chesney is trotting out there, because this guy knows what it takes to win, and he's won at every level he's been at. This isn't, in respect to Deshaun Foster, this isn't a running backs coach taking over as a head coach for the first time in his life. Everything this guy has done has been successful. And when you take winners and improve your roster with more winners, good things usually happen. Winning is a transitive property. It allows you to keep moving forward and keep winning on top of that. But guys, if you guys got any questions, we're going to stick around for another 5 to 10 minutes. Get those questions in. We are here. We got some crystal balls today, Madman. Some different players that we can
look.
Add
Thriller.
to.
I mean, the thing I'll say about what you just said, and I love it so much, is I think there's a sweet spot in college football right now where you want the 3 and 4 star kids, and if you can develop them the right way,
Look
I
at
think
Indiana.
that's going to be even more success than trying to go and pepper your roster with higher 4s and 5s. And the reason I say that is, to the earlier point we made, chemistry really matters in this day and age of college football. It's kind of like, you and I are such basketball guys, right? When college basketball went into the one and done phase, right? When Calipari was humming and then Coach K decided to go sort of one and done as well. Who were some of the teams that emerged in the Final Four? Who were some of the teams that almost won the national championship? It was Butler. It was VCU. You had more Cinderellas than you ever did before. Why? Because in that one and done era, chemistry started really mattering. Continuity mattered. Veteran experience together really mattered. And I think we're seeing a similar trend in college football, because if you just go after the 4 and 5 star kids, high 4s and 5s, guess what? They're going to be peppered by their agents and other schools. They're going to keep getting plucked year in and year out. Think about the stat thriller that you and I both saw yesterday. Over 4,000 players are in the transfer portal right now. That is 32% of all of college football. Think about that. In terms of the entire sport, 1 out of every 3 players is in the transfer portal right now. I mean, think about what a staggering turnover that is. Guess what? We're in the one and done era of college football now. And in order to sort of have success, how do you build some sense of continuity and identity in this era where it's so one and done? So he's picking the absolute right guys. Those 3 and 4 star guys with this big game experience is going to be absolutely critical. And that's why I'm so excited about this plan. Thriller, as we're waiting for some questions, what do you think? Who are you most excited about in terms of some crystal balls that may drop 24, 48 hours? I got to be honest with you. I'm starting to get really excited about your guy, Dorian Thomas.
Yeah, man.
Feels like that's going to be very real. And again, in terms of this offense, this Dean Kennedy offense, Dipre was, the JMU tight end. We talked about him. He's long. He was athletic, had a big role on that offense. Dorian Thomas
Florida
feels like he's going to be that perfect fit and that perfect security blanket for Nico. So I got my eye on Dorian Thomas here, hopefully dropping in the next 24 to 48 hours. What are your thoughts on some guys you've got your eye on?
Yeah, losing Dipre hurts, but I'll tell you something. Dorian Thomas, I was able to watch a lot of him given, my unofficial school that I cheer for is Michigan outside of UCLA. If I had another team outside the Bruins, that's, my grandpa went there. I watched them. I watched the opening night game and 10 catches, 71 yards, 2 touchdowns against the Wolverines. This guy was a baller, man, like absolute baller on the football field, was all Mountain West, just got a crystal ball to UCLA. And the most encouraging thing is he had visits to Florida lined up. He canceled the visit. So I think a lot of that crystal ball is going, this guy's committed. He's ready to go. He had a great weekend out in Westwood. Another guy that was reported today that could be coming to UCLA, big get too. This kid had all the offers out of high school. Aiden Mazzell, speaking of the Florida Gators once again, 6'2", 170-pound speedster at wide receiver. This kid had offers from your who's who of college football, your Georgias, your Texases, your Notre Dames. Went to Florida, kind of was figuring out, got lost in the depth chart, lost in the situation there. Takes a visit to Westwood this past weekend and had a wonderful time from what we're hearing. Predicted to come to UCLA. So you guys that are worrying about the receivers coming in for Nico, we lost Rico, we lost our guy, Quasi Gilbert.
Yeah, and Quasi.
We got these guys maybe on ice coming to UCLA, which would be big, big gets for the Bruins, man. So it's really exciting times right now, and it's just starting. Like we're just getting the train rolling here for UCLA. So here West, we're still waiting on Wayne Knight. There's a couple other names. I saw a couple San Jose State wide receivers. You may remember they actually are pretty good at developing wideouts there. Nick Nash led the college football world in receiving last season. He was a 7th-round draft pick to the NFL. So we got a couple of those receivers. Leroy Bryant from Washington. It was reported he had a great visit at UCLA. He could be a guy committing soon. So, dude, just buckle up, guys. I mean, the train is going. The smokestack is spiraling high into the sky, and the Bruins are taking it full advantage here in Westwood.
Full advantage indeed, Thriller. And, we'll close on this with, Aiden Mazzell, I mean, speedster from the SEC, 6'2", 175. The one guy, Thriller, this year that I thought we never really kind of got off the ground that would have been a really unique element was Jaden Wilson. You and I had sort of eyed him in the offseason because of that speed. And Wilson's obviously in the portal now, and we wish him nothing but the best as well. But when you look at those Nico highlights from Tennessee, we have not seen the total arm of Nico Iamaleava last year just because of the state of the offensive line. And now that we're starting to fortify it, and we have more work to do here, but we fortify this offensive line, people don't understand the gun this guy's got. He's got an absolute cannon. The ball can go 65 to 75 yards, no problem. And he likes to take shots. He just hasn't had the opportunity to be able to do so. So Aiden Mazzell coming in here with a great offensive line would be a tremendous game changer in terms of verticality for this offense. And let me tell you something, Thriller. Florida owes us one for J. Mike. We'll sort of trade J. Mike for Aiden Mazzell. They owe us one. So I've got my eye on Aiden Mazzell as well. And just want to thank all of the participants here. And, obviously that you can spend your nights and evenings in so many different ways. I mean, just overwhelmed that we got 255 people here joining us. And we're on this journey together, folks. This is a turning point. Thriller and I have been through some rough patches of the football program the last few years, but we bleed this place. We will never leave. We're in it till the very end, and this thing is turning around. Get on the ride, folks. Get on this bandwagon because it's going to be leaving the station very soon, and UCLA is coming to wreck college football, and it's all starting here with our guy Bob Chesney. And I see Rock and Rant is also here, and you're just a great friend. Thank you so much for the support, Rock and Rant. Always appreciate you so much, and always such a privilege to be on your show. And what a great content creator Rock and Rant is. Please check him out. Does amazing things in terms of national college football. And, again, please hit that like and subscribe button as we continue to grow this base. But, Thriller, anything you want to close with before we sign off?
Man, thank you for everyone tuning in. We are doing this as much as we can. We are going to probably opt for the lives when we get some big news.
Totally.
Just to kind of get it right out to you guys, get our thoughts and opinions. What we need is just likes and subscribes, dude, because we are trying to take this channel to the next level. We need your guys' help to do it. It doesn't cost any of you guys a penny. Like and subscribe. It helps this channel keep going forward. We would love to do this full time if we can. That's all we want to do. That's all we talk about amongst each other. We want to do this full time, giving the best content for the UCLA Bruins to you guys, man. So we're honored. And I'll just answer this last question right here that we got. Dom Rutella said, can these JMU O-line transfers hold up against a full Big Ten season? I think it's an interesting question, but I think if you see what Indiana's doing with Kurt Cignetti, very different systems. I know the James Madison connection is different, but it's that continuity you were talking about, Madman. It's the coaching that comes with that. Indiana had the best offensive line in the entire Big Ten this season, no questions asked. And it's with a bunch of 3-stars, 2-star guys. So if the coaching is right, I think this offensive line goes sky high for UCLA. What do you think on that one?
No, it's a great point by Dom and Thriller. You mentioned it really well. I think the Indiana point is great. I mean, think about the jump Indiana made, even from year 1 to year 2 with Cignetti in the trenches, right? I mean, year 1, you brought a lot of JMU guys, obviously incredible success 11-2, but they struggled in the trenches in the 2 big games that they had against Notre Dame, against Ohio State, really won all the other games. This year, Indiana is an absolute juggernaut on the trenches. Yeah. So it takes a little, it takes some time, not a ton of time, because we're talking about year 2 here. But I think we also need to understand that we're bringing in the JMU guys, the top end JMU guys for continuity, for the chemistry, but we're not exclusively going JMU either, right? Like we're going to be bringing in other major D1 offensive linemen. So when you mix those guys with the JMU guys, that's where the credibility really begins on the offensive line, and you're picking guys stylistically that really fit the Big Ten from an offensive line perspective. That's how you really build that building block. And then based on year 1 success, you sort of can go moving forward. And so I know we're having some fun with the records too. Folks are throwing it out there. Look, I think it's going to all depend on what the rest of this roster looks like. But to me, Thriller, let's see how it all plays out. But we continue with sort of this space. I see no reason why we can't be 8-4 next year, with a really nice bowl game and a nice bowl win that then sets us up in a significant way for year 2 of the Chesney era.
Yeah, man. Get us like 8-9 wins year 1. And then if that's the case, get a good transfer quarterback, develop somebody there. Because I think Nico will be off to the pros after this year. And then just make sure you get dot the I's, cross the T's and dot the I's. Get the roster right like we're doing this year. And anything's possible if the coaching is right and the vibe is right. So fans, keep bringing the vibe. It pays for these guys to see this, and it's landed us some big-time recruits.
No, absolutely. And, we'll just sort of close on, there's some talk about Nico as well. Look, think about the journey Cam Ward went on from Washington State to Miami and what the pick he was. Think about Jaden Daniels going from Arizona State to LSU, winning the Heisman, the journey he was on. Think about these massive jumps over the course of just 1 year when you have the quarterback be in the right system. And Nico Iamaleava, you are going to see a massive jump from 2025 to 2026 because now he has, quite frankly, a credible coaching staff around him, an intelligent coaching staff around him that knows what they're doing, has a significant plan. We've only scratched the surface of this kid's talent, and that's why him coming back was so significant, not just for his own development, but for this Chesney era to really hit the accelerator very, very fast. And so really excited, really pumped up, folks. Thanks so much for all the support too of, asking us to sort of do more and cover women's basketball, and just means the world to us because we love this community so much. We love all of you so much. And like we talked about, this is going to be the first of many lives, guys. So buckle up. You're going to see our faces a ton here over the next few days, the next few weeks. Lots going on in terms of the transfer portal, and we're going to have it all covered for you on the one and only LAFB network. And so, Thriller, I think we're going to go ahead and sign off. Hit that Sleeper app, folks. That helps us a ton as well. #1 sports app on the market today. Use that promo code UCLA LAFB. Tell them the Madman and Thriller sent you. Get $100 off your match bonus. $100 becomes $200. Can do all kinds of unique things in terms of lines, over-unders. You got that real-time chat. You got real-time stats. One-stop shop experience with the #1 sports app on the market today in Sleeper. Thriller, another great one in the books. This is just the beginning. This is only the beginning, Bruin Nation. Jump on the wagon now. All aboard. Choo-choo, the Chesney train. All aboard, Bruin Nation, as we're ready to wreck college football in the days, weeks, months, and years to come. Be loud. Be proud, be passionate, Bruins. And until next time, 4's up forever, baby.